Everyone's talking about how expensive San Francisco is, how it's not worth it, and how the city's over. But behind the headlines, the truth is a lot more nuanced. Yes, mortgage rates are still high. Yes, affordability is a real challenge. But the housing market in San Francisco is shifting again in 2025. And if you're only paying attention to Twitter threads, outdated reports, and the loudest voices on social media, you might actually miss a real opportunity. Let's talk about what's really happening here in San Francisco. Let's look at the data, the market behavior, and the kinds of deals people are actually making right now. Because the big question is, should you still buy a home in San Francisco? This doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all answer. But if you've been on the fence, this is the honest breakdown you've been waiting for. Let's start with what the numbers are telling us. As of mid-2025, the median home price in San Francisco is landing somewhere between $1.42 to $1.5 billion, depending on which source you look at. According to Redfin's latest report from June, we're looking at about $1.5 million on average, up nearly 3% from this time last year. Zillow tracks a typical home value around $1.29 million, but again, that varies across based on property types and neighborhood. The fact is this, these prices aren't falling. In fact, they've started rising again after a significant dip during the correction of 2022 and early 2023. Inventory remains extremely tight in San Francisco. In June 2025, there were only about 1,400 homes on market across the entire city. That's a low number for a city the size and density of San Francisco. Homes are going under contract in as little as on average 17 to 24 days, and the sellers aren't exactly desperate here. On average, listings are getting multiple offers, and most homes are closing between 5 to 7% over asking right now. I was recently working with a client in Richmond, San Francisco, who recently had been reading all the headlines about how the market was going to crash. They came in skeptical, thinking they could take their time, but the house they fell in love with, it had 6 offers, and they came in strong, above asking, non-contingent, and still landed only in second place. They will continue their search. But in that moment, it told them and also me as their agent that serious buyers are still showing up, especially for well-located homes with charm, character, lifestyle appeal, and improvements. But to really understand where things stand today, you need to zoom out and look at how we got here. Back in 2020 and 2021, we had rock bottom interest rates and buyer demand that felt endless. It was the pandemic housing boom. Bidding wars were everywhere minus condos. People were waiving contingencies left and right just to get into a home. And then in 2022, everything shifted. Rates doubled, confidence dipped, and San Francisco, especially its condo and downtown markets, anywhere that it's denser, saw values fall as much as 15 to 18% in some neighborhoods. In 2023 and 2024, things started to stabilize. Demand cooled, but so did listing volume. People weren't selling, and buyers weren't rushing in like before. But now in 2025, we're in what we call a modest recovery. Prices have begun ticking up again, particularly in neighborhoods that have been overlooked during the remote work era. A good example of that is in District 1 and District 10. According to Realtor, those areas have seen over 50% year-over-year increase in median list price in early 2025. Walkability, transit access, and proximity to work hubs are back in demand, quietly but clearly. Whether you're on the south side of town or the east side where it's more affordable, or closer to the center of the city where it's more accessible, prices will fluctuate, and you're going to want to talk to an expert to know exactly what's going on. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, interest rates and affordability. In 2025, mortgage rates are hovering around 6.5 to 6.8% for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Compare that to the sub 3% rates we saw just a few years ago. And yes, it definitely stings if you just relatively look at those two time frames. Monthly payments have jumped over 80% since 2020. A $1.5 million loan that used to cost around $5,000 a month now costs about $7,900 a month. That's a huge gap, and it's pricing a lot of people out, or at least making them hesitate. But here's the other side of the story. Wages in tech and finance have begun to rebound following heavy layoffs of 2022 and 2023. Yes, unemployment in California is still leading every state, but rent prices in the city are climbing again too. And for people with stable careers who want to stay in San Francisco long term, buying now may actually make more sense than continuing to burn cash in rent, because 100% of it goes towards someone else's mortgage. Also, let's not forget, buyers in 2020 and 2021 were locking in these low rates, yes, but they were also paying 10 to 15% more over asking for that period of time. In many cases, they were waiving everything, appraisal, inspections, you name it. Today, while rates are higher, there's a little more room to negotiate depending on the property you're looking at and the neighborhood you're looking at. There's also the option to refinance later if rates do come down. We recently helped a young couple relocate from Seattle. They weren't totally sold on buying in San Francisco. They just moved to town. They were renting for a period of time, but their rent for a 2-bedroom in the Mission was $5,500 a month. They ended up finding a TIC unit in a small 3-unit building. Was it perfect? No. But with 20% down and a 6.7% interest rate, they're now paying about $6,300 a month, and they're building ownership and paying down principal. They also have tax benefits paying interest against their income. They're also planning to refinance in the next 18 months or later. But for them, the decision wasn't about timing the market perfectly. It was about making a smart, sustainable move forward because they knew they were staying in the city for longer. Now, if you're wondering whether San Francisco is still worth it when other cities are so much cheaper, you're not alone. Let's look at the numbers from June 2025. In San Jose, the median home price is right around $1.48 million, almost identical to San Francisco. Oakland, on the other hand, comes in lower at $868,000. In Sacramento, you're looking at just under $500,000. That's less than 1/3 of the cost of an average home in San Francisco. So yes, if price is your only priority, places like Oakland or Sacramento can absolutely offer more bang for your buck. But the equation isn't just about price. You have to think about commute time, walkability, access to restaurants, culture, school quality, and long-term value. San Francisco properties have historically appreciated faster than any other cities in the region, especially in resilient neighborhoods like Noe Valley, Inner Sunset, and Bernal Heights, just to name a few. And with new revitalization efforts in key transit corridors and the return of some downtown vibrancy, investor confidence is starting to show again. So what kind of market are we actually in? Is this a buyer's market or a seller's market? According to Redfin's latest data, San Francisco has a compete score of 84 out of 100. That ranks it at a very competitive market. About 65% of homes are still selling above list price. The average property gets at least 4 offers, and sellers on average are walking away with 106.7% above their asking price. That said, not every segment is performing equally. Entry-level single-family homes priced under $1.2 million are still moving fast. Larger condos and high-rise buildings, they're sitting longer. And ultra-luxury homes in a $5 million range and above are moving more slowly than they were a few years ago. So your experience as a buyer might actually really depend on what you're shopping for and how prepared are you to move when the right opportunity comes up. So should you buy a home in San Francisco? The short answer is it depends. San Francisco isn't cheap. It's not easy, and it's certainly not for everyone. But in 2025, it's also not the collapsed market some people might make it out to be. Prices are stabilizing. Demand is holding. Inventory is still tight. And buyers who are prepared, strategic, and patient are still winning. If you have a long-term plan, a strong financial foundation, and a desire to live in one of the most iconic, complex, and resilient cities in the country, then yes, buying in San Francisco can still be a smart move. On the other hand, if your budget is razor thin, if you're planning to move again in a year or two or in the short term, or if you're hoping to time the absolute bottom of the market, it might make sense to wait or to look elsewhere. Cities like Oakland and Sacramento are offering serious value, especially if you want Bay Area access without San Francisco prices. Just watch out for the commute time and the time and energy it takes. If you're thinking about making a move in San Francisco, or even just curious about whether it's the right move for you, my team and I would love to help. We've guided dozens of families throughout the Bay Area real estate market over the last couple of months alone. Those rising rates, those falling prices, bidding wars, or those stagnant listings that are sitting on market, how should you navigate those? It's always going to be circumstantial. We'll be honest with you, we'll be strategic, and we'll help you figure out what makes more sense for your goals, because every single person's goals are going to be different. Reach out to hello@theownteam.com or visit us at theownteam.com to get started. And if you want to learn how the future of the San Francisco Bay Area's new developments will change how you live here, click the link here to see the other videos we've created. See you on the next one.